Hey guys, it's Nick at DB Longboards again, and I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little review on 180mm cast trucks. So a couple ones we have here, we have Paris's, Randal's, Buck, and Bear trucks. So again, these are just four of some of the more popular ones that are out there. There's also like calibers and stuff like that, but these are going to be the ones that we're talking about today. So first off, I have Paris trucks. They're 180mm wide in the hanger. They have a relatively clean casting for a cast truck with like the nub and then just other aspects of the hanger. They come in a lot of different colors like black, raw, blue, gold, the Adam Colton like signature one, and then they also come in purple and red. A couple things is like the bushing seat on this, it's more of just like a well, and so your bushing has room to like free pivot in there, but it's not necessarily locked into a defined seat. So it gives you a lot of turn, but still gives you a good amount of stability. And then on the flip side, there's also a little bit of a shallower seat, just because that's what you want on your board side. And so again, it lets it turn, but still has a lot of control on there. A couple things about the base plate. Paris only has one, and it's 50 degrees, so a little bit high on there. And plus whatever the rake is on the hanger is going to add or subtract, so it's generally about 3 to 5 degrees. So if you have it on there regularly, it's going to be 55 to 53 degrees, and if you flip it, it's going to be between 45 and 47 degrees. So just some things to keep in mind. A couple things though that are nice is the pivot cup is nice and snug in there, it doesn't stick out at all, and the Kingpin is stuck in there, so that way it doesn't fall out if you're trying to mount it on a board. You don't have to deal with that. It comes with both old and new school mounting options and has the nice Paris Truck Co. logo just engraved on there. The board does fit most drop-through boards because it's relatively narrow, and just fits top mounts equally as well. Next up, we're going to be talking about Randal trucks. Even though they say they're 180, they're actually 176mm, so they're a little bit narrower than a Paris, but still perform just the same as a 180. Again, the casting's relatively clean. The nub is a little bit sloppier than on a Paris, but still not much of a problem. There's a lot of weight that's reduced from the Randal by like removing stuff right there and adding these wings that allows them to take a lot of the base weight out of there. The Randal has a really shallow bushing seat, but it's a little more defined than a Paris, so it's not going to give you as much turn, but it's going to give you a little bit more stability. Same thing on the flip side, you have the exact same bushing seat as on the front, but it's just on the board side. So I mean, hey, if you have the same thing on both sides, there's no problem there. Randal base plates come in two sizes. They come in 50 degrees and 42 degrees, and add or subtract the rake in the hanger. The bushing seat, or the pivot cup does stick out a little bit. You can always feel free to trim it. I just go ahead and leave it stock. Nice thing though is you can go ahead and just punch it out if it rips or anything. On other trucks, they don't have that hole there, and you have to like dig it out with a hook. Another thing that's cool is if your Kingpin snaps on these, which isn't likely to happen because it's a grade 8, but you can always just pop it out and then replace it with another one. Next up, we're going to be talking about a less heard of truck. It's Buck trucks. They're 180mm, and then they also have a 50 and a 42 degree base plate, just like a Randal. The casting on these is really, really clean on the pivot. And then, while they don't have a lot of weight reduction, they do have a really clean bushing seat as well. It's a little bit deeper than the Randal, and it's not quite a well like the Paris, but it's definitely a more defined seat that lets you rotate and still have a really locked-in feel. And then on the board side, it's more of just a straight thing, so that's just going to cup a barrel in there just perfectly. I wouldn't recommend running an eliminator on these at all, just because it does tend to go up with the axle. So I'd rock a barrel or a cone on that. Overall, these are pretty sick trucks. Again, they have a little hole so you can just go ahead and push out the pivot cup if it rips, and the Kingpin is also removable, so if it does break, you can go ahead and replace that with ease. These, as well as Randal's, both have old school and new school mounting options, so don't worry about that if your board is drilled a certain way. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Bear trucks. These are the 852s. They're 181mm across, and they come in either 52 degree base plate or a 40. So you have the Bear 852 or the 840, and then you also have the 1040 or the 1052. Basically, the only difference between the 8s and the 10s is the millimeters of the axles. It's a little bit harder to find 10mm bearings, and they still bend with like bigger tricks. So like I'd say 8mm is the way to go because it fits more stuff and it's just more universal. A couple things about this is it's relatively light and has a really nice powder coat on there for the black. The casting is really nice on the head, and there's a little bit of grease on there too, so you don't have to worry about anything drying out. Another thing that's really nice is the bushing seat is really, really well defined on the bears on both sides, especially on the board side. It gives you a lot of lean, but still gives you a lot of stability, and that means you can rock a barrel or an eliminator, and it just fits in there totally fine, making it really stable for downhill or really, really turny for freeride. Couple things is bears tried to reduce the weight of their stuff, so there was some stuff on the hanger. Now there's also these little cut-ins right there, and there's just a lot of weights reduced, but it's still a really strong truck. There isn't a hole there, so you can't push out the pivot cup if it starts to get bad, but the bear things are a little bit higher quality, so you shouldn't really have to worry about that. The Kingpin is stuck in there, but you could probably hammer it out if you needed to, and go ahead and it's engraved right there on what angle the base plate is. Couple things about all of these trucks is they're just cast trucks, so again, I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of slop, but you can go ahead and reduce that by getting the proper bearings and like tightening them down completely on the axle nuts. Also, running with speed rings, which are these little things, is very important, because you run one on each side of your bearings and then you tighten it down all the way, and then also run a bearing spacer, and that can make these trucks feel really, really nice for you. Another thing is, I mentioned that you don't have to worry about squeaky trucks with the bears because they're come pretty greased. On the other 3 trucks and on other cast trucks, if it does start to get squeaky, go ahead and get a bar of soap and just lightly brush it against the bar of soap. And then if you don't want there to be excess, you just want there to be like a micro layer of soap in there, and then put it in there and turn it, and it'll make any squeakiness or loudness in the trucks go away. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and post in the comment section below. Go ahead and check us out at dblongboards.com. This is Nick, signing off.